Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Caithness Amateur Dram Antique Society tasting. Tonight I'm going to take a look at the Glen Grant core range. Uh, Glen Grant, considered, I think, one of the top ex-bourbon matured Scotch whiskies around, certainly from Speyside. And tonight I'm going to look at the Glen Grant 10-year-old at 40%, the Glen Grant 12-year-old at 43%. Then perhaps more of a limited edition, so not strictly in the core range, but the Glen Grant 15-year-old batch strength first edition at 50%, and then the Glen Grant 18-year-old at 43%. So Glen Grant Distillery is located in the Speyside town of Rothes. It's one of the top 5 best-selling distilleries in the world. The Grant brothers, two former illegal distillers and smugglers, formed the Glen Grant Distillery in 1840. James and John Grant made a sensible choice in the location for their first legal business because it had proximity to a good port at Garmouth, which sits on the mouth of the River Spey, and plentiful fields of barley. And so these factors proved to be a recipe for success, with the distillery prospering easily. In 1872, James Grant died, and the distillery passed to his son, Major James Grant Jr. He took control of the distillery and founded another neighbouring distillery himself, Glen Grant No. 2, to help contribute to the production capacity. Sadly, Glen Grant No. 2 was forced to close just 5 years after being opened in 1902. The site was reopened in 1965, operating under the new name of Caperdonic, but then it was mothballed in 2002 and torn down in 2011. In 1953, Glen Grant was amalgamated into the mother company of Glenlivet to form the Glenlivet and Glen Grant Distilleries Limited. It went through a series of corporate mergers during the second half of the 20th century. And one of those mergers marked the beginning of Glen Grant and Chivas' relationship when Seagram brought them together when they purchased the Glen Grant Distillery in 1978. During the 1970s, the number of stills at the distillery was increased from 4 to 6. Diageo purchased part of Seagram's in 2001 and then had to sell the Glen Grant Distillery to David Campari in 2006 due to the industry watchdog. Despite the many mergers and different acquisitions, Glen Grant is still the only remaining single malt distillery to still bear the name of its founders. And it's continued to go from strength to strength with Campari at the helm. Campari brought Glen Grant to Italy, which is now the largest world market for whisky, with enormous success. The 5.9 million litre production capacity is quite awe-inspiring. Due to the distillery's dual production purposes, operation runs at full capacity year-round. The nearby Caperdonic well provides the water used in this large-scale operation. 8 powerful stills stand at the heart of Glen Grant's production. 4 wash stills, which operate at a 15,100 litre capacity, and 4 spirit stills, which have a 9,600 litre capacity. There are 2 unique aspects to Glen Grant stills. The first is the very broad shape of the base of the wash stills, which then immediately narrow into a tall neck. The extremely tall necks of the stills are rated to be responsible for the whisky's light taste. And the other is that both the wash and spirit stills have a special hump on the immediate section, which house very slender reflux bowls. And some of the stills have shortened S-shaped line arms for them to fit into the space between the still and the condenser. Glen Grant was one of the first distilleries in Scotland to install pneumatic drum maltings, which are still used to this day. They were originally steam powered, but converted to their present electrical operation in the 1940s. They used their own maltings until 1971. The entirely unpeated barley is now bought in from an industrial site near Buckie on the Murray coast. It would be impossible to age the amount needed for the modern levels of production on site today for the warehousing. It has 7 dunnage warehouses on site, as well as several in neighbouring Rothes. The warehouses at the distillery hold 11,500 casks, which are all bourbon. The single malt that is in the off-site warehouses are aged in sherry casks. The single malt produced is sometimes used in Chivas blends, and it was immediately transported off-site for maturation in Chivas's warehouses. It has a bit of a dual personality, being both a highly acclaimed single malt distillery and a powerhouse to produce single malt used in the Chivas blends. The core range consists of a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old and the 18-year-old. They also have an extensive vintage collection. The independent bottler Gordon and MacPhail has played a very significant role in Glen Grant's history, having performed single malt bottling since the 1930s. And they continue, hopefully in the future as well, to release bottlings from older casks. Glen Grant is, or was prior to the sale of the distillery, also used as a major component in the Chivas blends, with over half of the distillery's impressive production dedicated to this purpose. The new make is very clean and sweet in the nose, with aromas of green apples, flowers and bubblegum with a hint of yeast behind. It is lifted and high-toned. The palate is fruity estery with notes of apple and pineapple, and it's pure and clean. And the finish is lightly floral. So we're going to start off with the Glen Grant 10-year-old at 40%. And it's been matured in ex-bourbon cask full term. It's not known if the casks are first fill or refill. I think it's probably the latter. It is chill filtered, but it is natural colour. So let's see what we have with the Glen Grant 12-year-old. Sorry, Glen Grant 10-year-old. Used to sell Glen Grant in a club I used to go to. And about nearly 50 years ago, the Glen Grant that was on sale was almost clear in colour. It was very famous as a very pale whisky back in the days. And it's still quite pale, very pale colour, like gold perhaps, straw really. And it has nice tears, despite the chill filtering. And it's a medium weight nose, lots of vanilla, toffee apple. It's herbal with a hint of smoke. It's a classic type of nose to Speyside nose to this whiskey. That sort of gentle malty sweetness, and you do get some old musty oakiness, which reminds you of dunnage warehouses with their soily floors. And there's also hints of espresso coffee and a touch of dark chocolate. And there's a nice honey note to it that comes through even more as the oak notes fade away with time. And you do get citrus notes, reminiscent of lemon drops and grapefruits. And then green apples and some peaches emerge. The underlying barley aroma is fresh and sweet, intermingling with the fruits. And you get some grass and heather notes appearing. But it's the fruity note that is the dominant one, and green apples and peaches. It's a very clean and enticing nose. We'll try some. We'll try on the mouth. And it's quite a firm mouth, despite the chill filtering. You get sweetness, fruity vanilla. It's malty, smooth, honeyed barley sweetness, with a light to medium mouthfeel, and the smallest pinch of spices. It's all very nicely balanced with a few nuts thrown in for good measure. Sweet and malty, a typical Speyside light malt, with the citrus elements and the green apples and peaches transferring from the nose onto the palate. There's a slightly spicy edge to it, some aniseed, and with time the maltiness becomes slightly more pronounced, with barley sugar and wisps of smoke emerging. And there's a nutty edge to this dram. Roasted macadamias and hazelnuts come to mind. And the finish is dry with tothy. It's gently warming on your chest with a slight tannin sourness working alongside that sweetness to keep things interesting. Considering the gentleness of the whiskey, the finish sticks around for a fair while, medium to long, with nuttiness and maltiness from the palate, combining well to give this dram a rather intense feel. The fruits take a back seat towards the end, but they linger in the background as a reminder of the progress this dram has undergone across the length of this tasting. I'm going to try 5 drops of water in this. semi-baked apples, pear and green grape, and it gives you more of the cereal element. We'll try them out. And water is this 10-year-old's friend. It cuts through the sweetness a bit and accentuates the cereal malty flavours of the 10-year-old. But be careful, if you add too much water, you'll bring on some bitterness. And with water, finishes a little malty with white pepper at the end that turns a little bitter. So careful with water, not too much. I'm just going to cleanse my palate. And tonight I'm cleansing my palate. I'll just tell you what the overall I think of this dram. It's an entry level drink, and it's classic and balanced Speyside with a good amount of quality to it. And it's good value for money. I think it's about £35. And it's a good starting whisky to the evening. A well balanced dram with the fruity, malty, and nutty notes combining quite nicely with one another, along with a small pinch of spice to liven things up. It's very moorish and easily drinkable. I thought maybe the low ABV of 40% might stunt it somewhat, but I'm pleasantly surprised. And I'm impressed that it's managed to retain its flavoursome nature even at such a low ABV. So I'm going to cleanse the palate with some Gusto apple crisps with a dark chocolate and caramel, salted caramel twist. Dried, not fried. Thought that could go quite well with Get the apple. So the next one out is the Glen Grant 12-year-old, bottled at 43%. It's a step up. It comes in at 43% ABV instead of 40%. But it's a bit higher in price, about the £45 mark. It is chill filtered, but it's natural colour. So let's see if it's a step up when it comes to aroma and flavour. And again, it's got nice tears. It's really a little darker, no colour to this one, so it is a little darker than the 10. There's the 10, and this is the 12. So yeah, it is just a little bit darker. So and orchard fruits open this one up. Orange and apple. A touch of pastry and a dusting of icing sugar. It's sweet with vanilla and crisp green apples. A bit herbal and grassy. with lots of malt and a dash of honey, and soft orchard fruit notes, sort of 50-50 pears and apples. Toffee with notes of butter, honey, and lemon pie, giving it a subtle citrus touch. And that's all intertwined with a gentle, creamy, lactic note. It's quite an understated nose. And it's not complex, but it's layered, accessible, and very balanced. It's deceptively simple. And there's certainly more to it than you initially think. Well, try them out. And it's richer than the 10-year-old. It's got sweet apple notes with golden barley in the background, crisp green apples and orchard fruits. And you get melon notes jumping out the glass, which creates a refreshing and light mouthfeel. It's bright sweetness. Again, it's incredibly easy to drink. And as the whiskey opens up, you get more lemon peel and honey. Not much wood influence comes through on the palate. The malt tends to take centre stage. Gentle honey, sweet arrival, grainy and slightly grassy. It's a nice mixture of sweet and gently sour apples. It's quite light to medium, the mouthfeel, and it grows increasingly drier as you sip along. And there's touches of almonds on the finish which last, a little wisp of spice, which fades quite quickly, a burst of honey, and sweetness that eventually transitions into a sort of more minerally and clean finish. You get more wood on the finish, but it's still quite muted. It's a rather long finish that clings to the inside of your cheeks. I'm going to add 5 drops to this one. With water, it's buttery, sweet, and a bit solventy. It seems younger on the nose than it did without butter. There's loads of malted barley with toffee, honeydew, and a slight hint of ash. Try them out. And it's lots of cereal grains, barley, vanilla frosting, orange cream soda. It's very straightforward and clean. It's not terribly layered. The burn is bright yet short. You get lingering toffee notes. It's a bit of an astringent finish with star anise and black pepper. I'm a bit in 2 minds about this one. It does have some things going for it. The price is exactly where it should be. It does bother me a bit that they strip their whiskey from potential greatness. Especially when you see how Glen Grant make a bit of a song and dance about the use of their purifier installed between the line arm and the condenser. It makes for a subtle, delicate style of whiskey. And then they go and risk it to literally flush all that away by adding such an unnecessary process like chill filtration. They do a travel retail 12-year-old without the chill filtration. But this one, it's simple and easy. It's a bit too easy in the sense that it tends to hover in an overpopulated segment of the single malt landscape. And this one, I think, there's not enough to clearly define the dram on its own. I would say the word that most prominently comes to mind when sipping this is competent. Right, I'm going to cleanse my palate with more of these apple crisps. So the next one up is not strictly speaking in the core range. This is the Glen Grant 15-year-old batch strength first edition, bottled at 50%, which is quite an intriguing release. I have here a 1 litre bottle of it. And I do like Glen Grant's packaging. The bottle is a classic shape. So this is quite an intriguing release of Glen Grant. It was aged for 15 years and bottled at the higher strength of 50%. And this expression is said to be the favourite of Dennis Malcolm, Glen Grant's former master distiller, who worked at the distillery for over 50 years. He sourced first spill bourbon casks to showcase the distillery's signature spirit with notes of honeydew, melon, citrus, apricot and apples. And again, this one is just a bit darker again. First spill bourbon. And you know, it's got lovely tears again. And you get plenty of biscuity notes at first. Shortbread. But you also get coffee and darker hobnobs. Then you get vanilla waffles and golden syrup. Pears, gooseberries and lemon candy. Honeyed notes and buttercups after a while, as well as that grassy hint of American oak. And you do get a hint of American bourbon here. Floral, citrus, apple, honeydew melon, caramel and oak. And it's slightly waxy. You get whiffs of vanilla and orchard fruits, but also a touch of rhubarb. It's a sweet honeyed whiskey with sweet notes of marzipan, accompanied by lemon peel and just a whisper of sawdust. Try them out. plenty of apples again with vanilla cake and marshmallow. Mid palate, a slightly rougher side appears with lemon zest, heather, and green oak. And there's strong hints of ginger and pepper as well. Lots of barley notes and fresh oak shavings towards the end. Honey, vanilla, apricot marmalade, malt, and spice. It's got a somewhat bitter arrival, and the oaky notes are more present with this one on the palate. A creamy mouthfeel with white pepper and cloves, which leaves some room for apple compote, juicy pears, and vanilla. And the finish is long, malty, honeyed, apple and soft spice. Spicy, waxy finale with a hint of white chocolate. It's like mixing sweet fruits and oak with a hint of green tea. It's long, fruity, and spicy. We'll try 5. Actually, I'm going to try 7 drops of water in this. And now the juicy fruits surface. Half ripe banana, red apple, and there's a whiff of citrus. The spirit strength becomes more noticeable in water, but there's vanilla, tonka bean, cinnamon, hints of pastries, but it's not too bready. It's all about the fruit on this one. There's a hint of floral, lily of the valley, and an aquatic, ozonic tinge, like watermelon perhaps. And water enhances the fruits to add an extra layer of complexity, sour and sweet on the tongue. The citrus is gain a bit of ground compared to the nose, and it develops nicely from soft fruits to a spicy build-up. There's heavy herbal honey, lemon and orange, peach, apricots, sweet apple, and sourdough. It's a medium finish, mildly dry, like a freshly baked loaf with warm spices lingering. The fruits continue, and the bready notes and some herbs. It's quite simple, but it's quite intense. It's not widely available anymore, but you can still find it for a decent price. It's a 1 litre bottle. Offers seriously good value for money if you can find it at the right price. It's no frills, it's just good whiskey. Hopefully Glen Grant will release a new batch at some time. It did seem younger than its age would suggest. The amount of greenwood is quite high on the palate, so I'm not sure the strength is well chosen after all. I like its bright character though, but you can get that from many a bourbon cask. I think Jim Murray called this the best Scotch whisky of 2020. Well, I'm not so sure myself. I'm going to have some more of these apple crisps. So, the last one in the core range I'm going to look at is the Glen Grant 1843%, which is currently the oldest in the core range. The 25 and others are part of the limited editions. It's a nice box. It's nothing over fancy. It's got a sort of bit of writing in the inside of the box about the still and everything, how they do it, and it's again a nice bottle. Quite a solid cardboard box. You drop it, it's not going to break the bottle. Nice cork. I've had a fair bit of this one over the last couple of years. So, the 15-year-old cast straight batch 1 for 50% Gimberry named it as its Whisky of the Year in 2020. And this one, he named it the best Scotch whisky in his 2017 Whisky Bible. Well, yeah, he named it in 2018. They have on the label, they have a badge. Jim Murray's Whisky Bible. Scotch Whisky of the Year 2018. So let's see. Matured in bourbon casks. And it's almost entirely on golden apples and juicy pears. And there's some bourbon oak, including a floral note. I like potpourri, hints of fruitcake, vanilla custard. And there's some light spices, clove and ginger. It's rich and floral with oaky overtones and hints of baking spices. Lots of low intensity grape jelly, vanilla, lychee jelly. It's quite jelly oriented, this one. There's a light peach perfume in the background. I had a nectarine for lunch today and I'm getting some of that on it. But it's a good length. Light fruity with vanilla, flowery, green apple, slightly musty but pleasant and distinct American oak. It's more complex and more balanced. Try them out. And it's lightweight with fruits and cake at its centre. Apples, berries, pears. gentle oak spices, vanilla, and some nutty hints. It's got that malty beer-like side too, and it's somehow sweeter with like caramel towards the end, malty caramel, delicate dried raisins and vanilla. And it's sort of light chocolate, but mostly a peach jelly and some peach juice. And the mid palate has more of what I sensed on the nose, a sort of light peach jellies, lychee jellies, peach jellies, hints of milk chocolate. And with more sips, you get more woodiness. And the back palate has a hint of burnt peach skin, uh, diluted toasty peaches, and light caramel honey. And there's hints of smoke. It's very light, faint chalk. And the fruit continues and remains delicate. The apple is still there. And the wood slowly overtakes, first with roasted aromas, and immediately afterwards, chocolate on the palate. In terms of taste, the dram is a little more set. It's still round though. And the finish is grassy oak and nuts. It's quite long, sweet with hints of nuts and spice. A little bit of peach and grape juice, and a sort of woody perfume. I can feel a sunburning after a few sips, but it attenuates later. I'll try 5 drops of water in this. And now with water, I get some vegetable notes, like some rocket salad. It's beautifully floral with peonies, lilies, and rose water. And there's a lush creaminess that was missing without water. Vanilla custard and sunflower oil and almond paste. Try in the mouth. It opens nicely and yields an array of high-class bourbon casket flavours and a lovely pronounced spiciness at the death. And the finish is medium to long. Fruit is slowly thinning, and the dry oak lasts a little longer. This is not a bad, quite a gentle malty malt that's easy to drink. After the Whisky Bible in 2017, everyone went hunting for this one. I'm not so sure it's worth that much effort. It's very, very fruity and sweet, both in the nose and the taste. For 18-year-olds, the oak is noticeable, but it only underlines the other aromas. It has no rough edges and it's tasty. It's a significant increase over the 12-year-old. There's some debate whether it's the whiskey, Scotch whisky of the year 2017, as Jim Murray said. But each to their own. So I do think for Glen Grant, the chill filtration spoils it a bit for me. But I have to say the 10-year-old is a very drinkable whiskey. It's a light, summery dram at an affordable price. The 12, I found a bit of a letdown. The 15-year-old is good, but it's not my whiskey of this or any other year. I think the 18 is very tasty, does a great nose, and it's a great testament to all that Glen Grant should, and often is, can be. Thank you for listening.